Hi, and welcome to Digital Defense. This is Jordan Robertson. I'm a cybersecurity reporter here in Bloomberg's Washington, D.C. bureau. This is our weekly cybersecurity show, and as always, we encourage audience participation. So if you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or any other platform, please feel free to write in with questions, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. This week's subject is fake news, and not just, a lot of ink has been spilled about the subject of fake news and its role in the presidential election, but I specifically want to talk about the technology behind detecting this stuff, and what specifically could Facebook and Twitter, and other social media giants do to kind of spot fake news and block it before it kind of spirals out of control. And we're going to talk about a case here in Washington, D.C., where a man brought a gun into a pizza restaurant, based on some fake news that spiraled out of control, as well as get to some interesting technology that's been developed to flag this stuff. So first, I think we'll just start with some background on what people are calling Pizzagate. That's this. There's this pizzeria here in Washington D.C. called Comet Ping Pong Pizza, and its name appeared in the WikiLeaks hack. The WikiLeaks leaked email of Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, John Podesta. This was a meeting place, and literally just a name that appeared in those leaked emails, which, as many of you know, is an attack that the U.S. government has blamed on Russia. In any event, that kind of oblique mention of this pizzeria in the leaked emails, led to this, and want to show you something here. In October 30th, this Twitter account, known for kind of promoting white supremacist material, tweets out that Hillary Clinton, NYPD is investigating whether Hillary Clinton is involved in a pedophile ring, and this is literally how this kind of stuff starts. And from there, you see these kind of self-referential articles on conspiracy blogs, pointing to this idea that there was some sort of child sex ring run, out of some tunnels beneath this DC pizzeria. Fast forward to this Sunday, what began basically as kind of, an unsourced, unfounded tweet on a white supremacist Twitter feed, kind of morphed into this conspiracy, this alt-right, this kind of, white nationalist, conspiracy, really kind of a significant story in that world. And it led to this Sunday, this guy, going to the restaurant with a rifle, firing a shot because he wanted to investigate these claims that there was a child prostitution ring being run by the Hillary Clinton campaign, out of some tunnels in the basement. And it's crazy, right? But, nevertheless, this is kind of the most vivid example we've seen of fake news really taking hold and really influencing some people who are prone to believing these kinds of things. Again, a lot of ink's been spilled on this story, but what I specifically want to talk about today is, how are Facebook and Twitter, supposed to deal with these kinds of threats? And I've been speaking to cybersecurity researchers who say the problem isn't that Facebook and Twitter can't manage this problem. Detecting fake news, on the internet is actually not that hard a problem to tackle. However, what happened is, the folks I've talked to said that, the social media platforms just severely underestimated the role that fake news would play in this election, and they're now scrambling, to develop technologies to kind of flag this stuff, detect it. There really is kind of this First Amendment issue as well of, if you want to consume fake news, that should be your right, but what is the role of our technology kind of intermediators, in that? And I came across this story from the Washington Post, which was very interesting, about a group of grad students who created what I think is a very interesting, Chrome browser extension that does basically what a lot of people want Facebook and Twitter to do, which is flag news that, we believe is probably fake. So this is the group. I wanted to introduce you to them. They are, so this is the group, some young students, and in 36 hours, they created a program which I find very interesting. Again, basically what it does is if something pops up in your Facebook feed and you've downloaded this browser extension, which is still being reviewed by Google, so you can't download it yet, but should be able to soon. If an item appears in your news feed, this extension kind of reaches out to various different parts of the internet to check to see if this looks legitimate. And with everything on the internet, scoring is how this all occurs. So there's no kind of like absolute truth. This is absolutely true, but there is a scoring mechanism you can apply to say this looks like it could be real. And the result is this: if an article appears in your news feed that has the characteristics of being a valid news story, it comes with a tag like this. It says verified. This is a story that's from the WashingtonPost.com. So, legitimate news organization, but it's not just that. They will actually check facts within the post and ping out to Google and other search engines to see, does this information and these words in this sequence, do they exist in other reputable places? So it's kind of like a Google for news authentication. This isn't a super hard technology problem, but it is creating a way for people to kind of take control over their news feed and take control over the information they receive, and have some sort of very quick way to see if the news they're consuming is valid or not. I find this to be a very useful idea. This is an article that their algorithm, which again is very kind of early stages and basic, has flagged as verified. You go to another one. This is a climate change denier story. This one, the algorithm has flagged as not verified. So you can see this little flag here. You see it comes from yournewswire.com. It contains the phrase, climate change is a hoax. And again, these keywords are part of the algorithm as well. It's actually checking some of the facts, again, in a very kind of, basic early stage way, but it does give you a sense of, is this stuff, valid or not? So we're getting some questions from the audience, and I want to get to those, of course. And first question is this just for Google Chrome? Do other browsers have a similar tool? The extension that we're talking about here is just for Google Chrome, Google's Chrome browser. And again, it's very early stage. This was for a hacking competition not too long ago. So this is just kind of, it's a real thing, but it's also a proof of concept of what's possible and what technology companies can do. So for right now, this group's product, is just for the Chrome browser. But I was emailing with one of the developers, and she said we're still in school. We're in finals week, so we're just trying to get through our studies, and and then we're going to put some more effort toward this. Another question is, are there any theories that other countries are pushing out this fake news, Russia, et cetera? Absolutely, and it's a good question. That screenshot I showed you before of the white nationalist account where, this first started and where this first started, to get promulgated. In the law they have the theory of the fruit from the poisonous tree, which is basically like, that tweet was based on information that came out of emails hacked from the Hillary Clinton campaign, which the U.S. government believes was by Russia. So you have this kind of problem where information taken from a private account that wasn't supposed to be public and really didn't say anything. It just said that some members of the campaign had met at this pizzeria. You take that piece of information, you combine it with other conspiracy theories about the Clintons, and then you have what kind of becomes this sensation, in circles inclined to believe this. So it's unclear at the moment how much of the actual promulgation was done by suspected Russian hackers. The theory and the evidence so far points to what happened is, there are a lot of fake news sites that exist in places like Eastern Europe and Asia and places like that, the U.S. as well, where people are just going for clicks. The internet's about making money for most businesses. So, and fake news generates clicks. Conspiracy theories generate clicks. So that right now is kind of the best way to think about who's spreading a lot of this news. Now, certainly there was, the U.S. government detected, Russian propaganda operation, and a pretty sizable one as well. In this case, it's unclear if that was, a part of this other than, the initial kind of spark of the idea coming from hacked emails, believed to be, from the Russian government. Next question is, how big of a threat is fake news to Facebook's legitimacy and trustworthiness? Another good question, because Silicon Valley has been really wrestling with this idea since the election of what role did we play? What role did technology companies play in in providing a platform for this stuff? And certainly you can look at it one way, which is if Facebook and Twitter and Google just accept any ad that comes to them, they can certainly make a lot of money because they're again, these things do get clicks. People do actually pay for this stuff. The problem does become you don't want your news feed cluttered with junk. You're just going to stop using the service. So there's a self-interest aspect to this as well, that Facebook and Twitter and others are encountering. As they receive calls, even to do things like there are questions that they're debating about, what qualifies as hate speech, especially when it comes from politicians who are retweeting, examples of fake news, or they are promoting kind of hateful ideology. And the question has been raised, should Donald Trump's Twitter account be blocked by Twitter? These are serious discussions they're having, and it's a very difficult issue. Twitter's founder and CEO, came out this week and he described his feelings, about Donald Trump using the Twitter platform as very complicated. He said, on one hand, it's a fascinating insight, an unprecedented insight into, a president-elect. And on the other hand, there are certainly, repercussions like the promulgation of fake news and things like that that he's been a part of as well. And from a long-term business standpoint, the cybersecurity experts I've talked to, they said, look, this is an issue that the industry can get under control. 10, 20 years ago, nobody ever would have thought spam would have gotten under control. Spam was, a menace and a nuisance, and kind of everybody's email inboxes were clogged with this stuff. Now, when's the last time you can really recall seeing, some sort of huge volume of spam in your inbox? It's especially in Western countries and dealing with U.S. and Western internet providers and email providers, it's a problem that's mostly been resolved, to a large degree, and the spammers have to work a lot harder to get access to your email inboxes. I've heard it described to me as, this fake news thing is probably going to go the same way, because as these grad students have so kind of cleverly shown, there are ways with just a few data points of corroboration to provide a pretty good signal about, is this stuff credible or not? And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for. A lot has been made of this idea of, people should be responsible consumers of news. People should investigate and interrogate the news articles they're reading. But that misses the point of how people and how we all consume news these days. We're not consuming deep dive stories for every article we read. We're reading at most a headline in many cases. And these things just fly by your social media feed. So, there needs to be some sort of, for as fast as we're consuming the news, there also needs to be some sort of, equally fast, mechanism to flag whether this stuff is potentially believable or not. And then people are really interested can dig further. But if these companies lose that kind of high ground of, Facebook or Google or Twitter of, we have mechanisms to detect this stuff, we have mechanisms to protect users, this really is kind of a security issue. If they lose that idea in pursuit of, call it, higher profits, that's a risky business proposition for them. So my sense is, a lot of this stuff this was the first time we'd seen it on this scale. So my guess is that by 2020, and what the cybersecurity experts have told me, is this problem is going to be much improved, because it isn't that hard to flag this stuff. Another question came in: what if this algorithm blocks out news that looks fake but is actually real? Another very good point. Part of the data matching that goes into one of these algorithms is, the source of the information. So if you're dealing with a major news organization like Bloomberg, like the Washington Post, the New York Times, whatever, it's pretty easy to assign it a high score, because at least there's some, authentication there. The problem becomes, what if you're a blogger? What if you're a small news organization? And that's where things like, how often has this person posted, or how often has this account posted, as one expert described it to me yesterday. That's when that becomes really important, because you can be a small news organization, or even just kind of a lone blogger, but if you're posting regularly, and if you have, even if you don't have a good following, but if you are just active enough and you appear legitimate, there are ways for algorithms to say, this isn't somebody who just came online yesterday and posted something. But that is a risk, because what you don't want is to have a bunch of false positives, and then you have the narrative dominated by, the giants of media, major news organizations and the like, and there needs to be a diversity of voices. And this is a very good question, because, if you have too many false positives and you block out news sources, that are just not mainstream, that's not what we want either as a society. Another question is, we know the internet has been tainted by fake news. Have other news sources like TV? The answer is, of course. All media feeds on each other. So TV will feed on print, and print and vice versa. So the problem is, once this stuff starts churning up, we live in such a fast news cycle now. I heard it described by one Silicon Valley entrepreneur. It's kind of like, you're fact checking as you go. It's this kind of like ad hoc, improvisational type of news gathering, and no, that's not what major news organizations, of course, try to do. But that exists, especially in 24-hour cable news. This stuff gets promulgated, it gets highlighted, and even if it's not on cable news, these blogs and these conspiracy theory, venues, this Pizzagate thing blew up on these conspiracy theory blogs. And if you're not on those blogs, like many people aren't, you'd have no idea. You'd have no idea why a man with a gun walked into a pizzeria in Washington D.C. and fired a shot to investigate some child rape rape ring. It just wouldn't make sense. But there are lots of avenues, of venues for this information to spread. Another question is, someone says the easiest way to block fake news is to just use your head and double check them on multiple news sources. Is it that easy? My answer is no, because again, that's not, when your main news source was, the daily newspaper dropped on your front doorstep every day, that's a lot easier, but that again is kind of, the mainstream media had a monopoly on news. And I think many people can agree it's good that, these days there are a multitude of voices. I mean, it's great that anybody can blog and anybody can post something on the internet. The problem is, how do you weight that, and how do you interpret that when news is flying by on your Facebook feed? And nobody expects, nor should we want, that people who are reviewing, reading news on Twitter, reading news on Facebook, that they actually need to click through on every single story. Like, you just don't need to for most stories. What you should be able to do is you don't have to interrogate every news story that you see. There's a time and place for that, and social media is just not conducive to that. So you need an easier flag. So with that, again, we want to thank everybody for writing in with questions. We do this every week, and again, we are open to questions both during the show and offline as well. You can find me on Twitter at JordanR1000. The Bloomberg Tech team is also, doing a weekly podcast called Decrypted. If you go to the Apple Store, you can find it there. We're doing similar type of reporting, there as well. So as always, thanks to everybody who watched, and do please feel free to write offline with any questions, and try to get to some of them next week.